Are live. So I have with me today Ryan Chapman with U Mortgage, and he is here. He's going to tell us all about who he is and how we can help him. And Ryan, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How's
Good.
everything with you?
I can't complain. Even if I was going to complain, nobody'd listen.
Oh, shit. It's like that sometimes.
Yep. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about you. Like what what do you do for a living, and how'd you get started in all this?
So really, I started in the real estate slash mortgage industry as a marketing director.
Okay.
I was down in Texas. I was doing marketing for the oil and gas industry for quite a while. Recruiting people to come work in the oil fields. It's kind of wild. Is that, they have all these crazy marketing campaigns to get people there so they can just keep the oil fields running 24/7. And
I
so
did
like
not know
around
that about you.
yeah, yeah. So my degree's in marketing. I graduated in 2012. I took a little break from college. It just took me a little while. I paid for my college myself, so I didn't get any kind of scholarships, grants, anything like that. And I graduated at a private college called Westwood College in Dallas, Texas, and then went to work. A lot of people just go to work in the oil fields out of college, and that's what I did. I went there, applied there, and just started on a marketing team, and we just developed campaigns to get people to come and work in the oil fields. A lot of people would come from South Dakota, North Dakota, just places where the unemployment is very high. There's not a lot of jobs there, and so what we would do is we'd bring them down. They'd work about 3 months, and then they'd take about 1 or 2 months off. So around 20. Oh, go ahead.
So they made enough money in those 3 months to take a whole month or two off.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good pay. It's long hours. They work anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day, and they get I think they work uh 4 or 5 days and then get two off. I think they can choose, but they work overtime. It's a grueling process, and so yeah, so that's kind of what I kind of started my career in marketing and learned a lot of stuff. And then in 2017, I moved back up to Wichita, Kansas. So I was born and raised here, and my whole life I've lived between here, Kansas City, and Texas. Just kind of following my parents around. My mom and my stepdad worked for AT&T, used to be Southwestern Bell, and so they've just been, my whole life they were transferred between those places. But in 2017, my grandfather got real sick, and so I moved up to Wichita to help my mom take care of him. Started putting my resume in, application in, several spots, and ended up at a mortgage company. So it was kind of a new thing, but the person running it really wanted to grow and like had a lot of dreams, and so I was like, okay, I'll help. What do you want to accomplish? So they told me the goals, and I just kind of went to work. I was kind of a jack of all trades. I didn't just do marketing; I did admin, all kinds of stuff. And so one of the first things I did was hire a loan officer, and it was a 21-year-old kid who like never went to college, nothing. Um, so that first year that I hired him, he ended up making more than I did as a loan officer, like that I made on my salary as the marketing director. And so I was like, wow, that's insane. So needless to say, I went and got my license like ASAP, and I talked to the owner. I was like, hey, I want to be hybrid. I want to be a loan officer in the day, and I'm gonna stay late, and I'm gonna do marketing stuff at night. And so he was cool with that, as long as the marketing doesn't slip. Slowly, loans started kind of taking over. And so it was going to push the marketing out. And eventually I was just like, hey, I'm just going to do loans full time. And kind of the rest is history. Started getting to where I was kind of running my own thing. Like I was just kind of doing my own thing. So I was like, hey, I really just, I need to just kind of branch out and do my own thing. And so that's when I ended up bringing U Mortgage, which is a franchise here to Wichita. Um, and it's kind of like a turnkey system to where I structure the loans, I get everything good and golden, gather all the docs, and then they really just kind of take over from there.
So that that's why you're so good with all your social media, is because you have a real marketing background that really helps you there.
Yeah, and it's I actually went back to school because when I got my degree in 2012, it really social media wasn't the beast that it is now,
Right.
and so I went back and took a lot of courses that were social media based and take a lot of mastermind. I'm in a lot of mastermind groups, go to a lot of conventions and everything because just social media is just really it's going to be the future of really lead gen and I did a class at a real estate company, and I said, look, if you go back and you look, we're looking at 2024 from the rearview mirror. The agents that are going to be the most successful are going to be the ones that are on video, are doing video.
Yep. I was just talking to a guy yesterday, and it kind of goes along these same lines. With us being on video, it helps you stay in front of the people that already know you. On your Facebook page, your Instagram, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
which is always nice. I mean, it's not like you can talk to all 2,000 people or however many people follow you or are friends with you on Facebook, but you can put that video out there and be like, hey, it's me. How's everybody doing? All that. So
yeah.
that's the power of social media, is it helps you stay in touch with people that you probably otherwise probably wouldn't.
Or people that you may never even met.
Right.
There's a crazy conundrum with social media and video, particularly. You can create what's called a parasocial relationship where people get to know you and like see you as like their best friend, and you don't even know who these people are. You don't know they exist.
Yep.
It's just they follow you and they're your people. I have like a thing that I talk about 33%. So I've seen kind of similar things, but my philosophy is 33% of people are going to like you, love you, no matter just being yourself, being who you are. 33% of people just gonna you're not gonna be their jam. They're not for
Yeah.
you. And then 33% of people really are not gonna care. And so you just
Right.
got to find your 33%. You got to find your people and just speak to them.
Yep. That you make a good point there, because that whenever I talk to new agents, like first thing they say whenever I tell them, all right, you ready to get on video and make some videos? Oh, number one, I'm not comfortable doing that. And
Mhm.
number two, what are people going to think? Who cares what they think?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah. I mean, we all have those like those things that we don't like about ourselves on video. Like I'm a little bit more portly than I like. It's like, I got a receding hairline. I got things, and it keeps creeping back. And I'm like, hey, what? Who cares? Like, just get out there
Right.
and do it. It's not keeping me from getting out of bed in the morning. Like, we get out of bed and we go out into society. We're making thousands of videos. Like, people's eyes are just like a video camera. It's like
Right.
you're making video whether you like it or not every day when you get out and interact with society. Like when you're ordering your coffee, it's a video in front of like the barista. So
Yep.
um, we just got to get over it because it is the future. Like it's the closest thing to being face to face that you can get. And other than being face to face or what we call breaking bread, which is just drinking or eating with somebody, it's the thing that can grow your affinity with someone greater than any other. Because
Yes.
there's a level of relationships that you can gain. Video is the closest thing you can get without being live in person.
Yep. Well, and to hit on your point of the parasocial relationship, you find, say, a YouTuber that you like to watch, like that YouTuber has no idea who you are, but you feel like you know everything about their life
Yeah,
because they're putting their self out there and you're getting to know who they're putting out there. That's kind of like, if you were to go, say like a sports person, if they put themselves out there, then whenever you meet them and you are have the chance to like get their autograph or whatever, you're like, oh my gosh, I know you, like all
yeah,
that. So,
yeah,
um, that's ultimately our goal, right? We
yeah.
want to be internet famous.
Yeah, and it really, people do business with people they like.
Yes.
People that are in their 33%. Like, you can live a comfortable life, you can provide food for your family, you can be as successful as you want, just finding your 33%. Like, the other people, just ignore them. Just find your 33%, and they don't want to know like what's, it's good to make these like educational videos, but you also need to make personal videos. Like, your chicken videos are great because you
Yeah.
can see your personality. It's amazing because people don't really want to know, like, they do want to know the education stuff, but people do business with people they like.
Yep.
And I never know if I like you or not unless you interact with me in some sort of way, whether it's
Right.
digital or whether it's in person. And so you just got to be who you are, and then your 33% will find you.
Exactly. Yep. And that's one thing I tell all my new agents, and well, all my agents in general, is you just got to show that you're a real person. Because if you always have this face on, like, you got to be all professional 24/7, which, I mean, to an extent, yes, you do, but
Yeah.
you also have to show that you're not just a stick in the sand. You have a little bit of a personality and all that. So
Yeah.
I
Nobody
like
wants
the
to work with a walking billboard. They want a real human being person that, you know.
exactly. Yep. So Ryan, tell me a little bit more about you mortgage. Like, how did, I mean, obviously, you said you kind of branched out and wanted to do your own thing, but you
Mhm.
mentioned that you brought this to Wichita. So
Mhm.
what did that process look like?
So really, I think the magic behind U Mortgage is really, I think maybe just my first 5 years in the industry. I don't. U Mortgage is really just a processing company that handles my processing. They handle my admin for my company. The true magic is in the company itself. And we have some huge, exciting news that we're actually rolling out after the 4th of July. Um,
Okay.
and so we're going to be doing a rebranding. It's pretty exciting. But yeah, so the magic is of the system that we brought here. U Mortgage, Planet Cheapskate is kind of what I do my marketing as, like on Facebook and everything like that. Um, there's been really, I would say, probably a negative view of brokers within Wichita, Kansas. It's not like that around the rest of the United States. Broker is a smaller segment of the industry, but for instance, it's very large. Which the gap is very large in Wichita. 83% of loans that are done in and around Wichita are done by banks and credit unions.
Yeah.
So that's a huge, huge number, but it also is a huge, huge opportunity because they're very, very limited on what they can do. Most banks are only going to go down to like 620 on credit score. Um, so there's a huge opportunity there. I don't see it as like, oh, dang, like 83%, how can I go compete? I'm like, hey, there's opportunity. I know they can't do all the loans, that I can do. And, you know, what we brought here is not necessarily a fully broker model. It's a hybrid model. And so, um, you have these lenders that are called, we call them retail lenders. And so it's very hard to tell the difference between a broker, a retail lender. It's pretty easy to tell the difference between like a broker, retail, and a bank or credit union, because you walk into the bank or credit union and you can open up an account. But there are retail lenders that are just here that just set up shop just to do strictly mortgages. Um, Now, the difference between a broker and those is that when you walk into those establishments, when you talk to them on the phone, you're getting one rate, one set of cost. You're working with one lender. When you talk to a broker, I can do one credit pull, and then I can talk to over 50 different lenders on your behalf using that one credit pull and make them compete with each other to see who's going to offer the best deal.
So that's
Now,
not something where you're getting your credit pulled 50 times. It's only once.
just once, just
Okay.
once. And furthermore, I have a lender partner who can actually pre-approve you, like pre-approve someone on a soft credit pull. There's only one lender in America that does it, and I'm signed up with them. So we can actually pre-approve you on a soft credit pull. It's pretty
And
amazing.
I guess what after after they do that, or after you do the soft pull, like what's that process look like going forward from there?
So typically on a normal pre-approval, we're going to take your application. We're going to get some documents from you. We're going to get your most recent pay stubs. We're going to get W-2s. If you're self-employed, we're going to get your last 2 years of taxes. We're going to get your bank statements. What we're confirming is we're confirming one, your credit with a soft pull. We're confirming your employment, that you have income coming in. We're confirming your assets. Okay. What we do is we take that information, we put it into our system, and it's called an automated underwriting system. The automated underwriting system is going to tell us, like, hey, this is an approvable loan. Everything's good. Everything's bad. Okay. It's either approved or it's not approved. Okay. That's where it ends with most retail lenders or banks or credit union. They do that process. I have the capability of doing what's called a manual approval. And what is done with that is the AUS, the automated underwriting system, is going to kick out a list of things that you need to do. These are called your conditions. Before it ever is seen by an underwriter, I can go through those conditions. I can manually approve you for a loan where the automated system can't, based on the particulars of your credit, the particulars of your employment, and just a myriad of factors. Most lenders don't do these anymore, but there are a few of us left that can actually do the manual approvals. Huge difference going to a broker versus going to a bank or another lender is most bank employee loan officers or credit union employee loan officers, and then many retail employee loan officers are blanket licensed under that institution. They work for that institution. They have their license under that institution. When you work with an independent mortgage broker, my education and my license is on me. It's not under any other institution. So there's a lot of more education and certifications and regulations that I have to comply with that they don't necessarily have to comply with. That's why you see there's a lot of lenders are like, oh, well, before we ever kick you an approval, we make sure an underwriter looks at it and make sure that it's okay. What they don't mention is they have to do that because they don't have the license and the certifications to really do an actual pre-approval.
Gotcha.
They're not an independently licensed loan officer. They're licensed blanketed under an institution. And I remember when I came to your office at one time, I told you guys about you guys had no idea about the ROVs, the
Right.
requests for revaluations. That's because those loan officers under those institutions, they're not going to tell you that because the lender doesn't want that to be done. They want to make sure that the value's there and safe. That's where an independent advocate comes into play to really help you get these things done. So, what's been the problem in the past? The past is a broker like myself, I can actually choose which lenders I want to sign up with, which lenders I don't. I get paid exactly the same, regardless of which one I go to. But if someone's not experienced and savvy enough, they might sign up with some jankety lenders who use like overseas virtual assistants and just have no good name. And so when I pick my lenders, I go and I read the Google reviews, I read the feedback, I read the BBB reports to make sure that it's about the experience, not just about getting the lowest of the low rates. Most brokers that you work with are going to be able to get you a lower rate than a retail, a bank, a credit union. That's easy. Just because we don't have the margins that they have. They have to pay for CEOs, vice presidents, and regional directors and all that. With me, it's me. I got to make sure that I can pay all my people, and then I have enough to put food on my family's table, enough for marketing, enough for the business expenses. After that, that's it. I pay a
Yeah.
flat fee. I pay a flat fee to the franchise per loan, and then that's it.
So you actually have your hand in picking who you work with as far
Yes.
as like the main where the loan's going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been the trouble in the past with some other poor broker representation in our area is that they just choose unwisely. These lenders will sometimes make sweet offers like, hey, sign up with us, and we'll do this or we'll do that or we'll give you this pricing incentive that you can pass on to your clients. But the pricing incentive doesn't mean crap when the service is poor.
Right.
And so I'll give you an example. I had a couple that I worked with, I think two, it would have been the third time. And they came to me and said, "Hey, we want the lowest of the lowest rate. We don't care about anything else. We want the lowest rate you can get for the cheapest cost." And I was like, okay. So I priced it out and I was like, hey, this is a lender I'm not that too familiar with. I don't use them a lot. I have them for special, reasons and special purposes because they do this well, they do that well. But I'm a little nervous about going to them because they're archaic. They're a bank. It's a slow process. And I explained that all to them. Previous to that, I took them to my best of the best lenders, fast processes like 10-day, 12-day closes. They loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. This time they needed to make the numbers work. They're like, we got to get the low so low. I was like, okay. I mean, it's going to be a little roller coaster ride because, and so it ended up being a roller coaster ride. But regardless, we still closed in 34 days. But it
Which
was,
that falls along the real estate timeline typically, which is nice.
yeah. But their expectations were so much greater because they worked with me before where I was
Yeah.
getting these 10-day, 12-day closings. And just the process, the experience was just a nightmare for them. This lender made them like post sign their taxes. They ended up in the process, they filed their 2023 taxes and there were some new businesses that started up, one of which had like a $75,000 loss. And I had to account for that, which was huge. It almost got denied because of that.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of get a little, clever on working through that. But my point being is like who you work with matters and their experience matters because, whenever I was in my first 2 years, I might have like been like, okay, I'll take it to this lender and, we'll see. And then it's just a nightmare. Like if a realtor's out there and they worked with me my first 2 years, like 2017, 18, 19, they probably don't talk to me anymore because I would never recommend working with a loan officer in their first 2 years unless it's like you have no other choice.
Right.
And I mean, conveniently, I worked for a company that like really that's where like loans went to die. Like if no one else could improve it in the state of Kansas, you would go talk to these people and just throw it against the wall and see if it stuck.
The good old
And
spaghetti method.
I hate to explain it like that, but it's kind of like that was their niche. That was what they did, and that was what they were known for. And it was either, but it was a horrible experience. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so in 2021, 2022, I was like, I'm going to revamp my whole business. It's going to be about speed to close. Like,
yeah,
speed to close is what it's all about. It's like I want the fastest lenders, really good rates, still beating retail, still beating banks, still beating credit unions, but the experience matters too. And so then I went all in on speed to close. That was what it's all about. Gathering all the documentation we need up front. Like I gather all the docs up front before I even submit. I have some realtor partners that I'm like, hey, like it's been 2 weeks and they haven't got me these docs. Can we put some pressure on them? Because as soon as we get all the docs needed, we get it in. And then like that's how I get the 5 to 6, 7 day closes. We're waiting on TRID to close because I get everything up front. I don't even submit it until I have everything. And a lot of lenders won't do that. They'll just submit things. They'll piecemeal it. Well, it makes it harder on the underwriter because then they got to go back and backtrack.
Yeah.
And so
what would you say is one of your more crazy stories that you can actually tell?
I'm trying to think. There's just so many. Okay, so there was I actually wasn't I heard about this, but I wasn't like there, but it's so my first lender that I worked with, there was a loan officer that worked there that Um, Someone was purchasing a condo and they were purchasing it for their mother. And during the process, they were, this was when I think it was in 2012. And I believe it was when the rates just kind of did something crazy where like they were just going up and down, up and down, up and down overnight. And so they gave out a loan estimate at one rate. When they went to lock it, it was like 2% higher than than what it was. And
That
they
would
did
be a
not.
massive difference.
Yeah, it was a crazy massive difference. And so, but for some reason the guy wasn't looking and he just like clicked buttons and everything, and he didn't know until the day he sat down to the title. And this loan officer went to the closing there, and whenever the guy saw it, he refused to sign, and he like took the guy and he like threw him up against the wall and then threw him. And he's like, he told the guy, because I actually heard this from the guy who was selling the property, told me the story about this. He said, keep the earnest money, and they walked out. So crazy closing. So whenever I'm worried about going to closing because things were a little bit rocky, I always think of that story, and I'm like, it could always be, it's not going to be that bad,
Right.
because I go to all my closings, and there's some that I'm like, I don't really want to go to it. It was a little rocky. They were a little sassy. But I just usually suck it up and I go. And like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just like, hey, I'm just gonna dip in. Do you have any questions? Everything good? And then shake the hand, give the gift, and be like, okay, well, I got to get back to the office, do some approvals and everything. But
Yeah.
I as long as I'm not out of town, I do my best to go to every single closing. But and I
Awesome.
always think of those like the whole thing, like, hey, when you have to make the call, good news. My philosophy is bad news doesn't get good over time. And so as soon as I hear about something bad, one, I call the agent first, and then I talk to the agent, see if we can get a game plan together, get a solution. If not, then I call the client, explain like, hey, this is what it is, but we're going to get this figured out. We're going to find out a solution. We're going to go forward, because we know real estate, there's always bumps that happen in the road.
Yep.
The crazy, I mean, I don't know, I don't really have too crazy of stories like that other than like what I've heard. um I have one that was so frustrating. It was like a VA deal, and there was chip paint on the deck. Okay, chip paint. We had it. Then they were like, hey, you need to scrape the deck, you need to repaint it. So I went out, and me and the agent on this went out, we scraped the paint and we painted it. And no, first it was just on there like, hey, you got to scrape the paint. So we went out and scraped the paint. Call the guy back out there. No, you need to paint it too, because it's exposed wood. So then we painted it, and then the guy was like, "Oh, you need to pick up the paint chips on the ground." Like, why did you not put that on the report when you went out there the
Yep.
second time? Like, hey, paint it and pick up the paint chips. No, he decided to be a jerk and say, "No, you need to paint it." And then when we put it in for the reinspection, now you need to pick up the paint chips. And
And
so,
then they can charge you every single time.
yeah, and I mean, I think we know the people that do that kind of thing. Like between us,
Yeah.
we talked about them at your office too. And so really, just frustrating things like that. I don't ever have like any like crazy like borrower stories, other than like borrowers not like like the funds not coming through. Like, oh, we're gonna save $5,000, or oh, mom's gonna give us $5,000. That's the one hard thing as a loan officer, is that if someone says they're going to get gift funds and then they don't come through, that can be real bad. So you always want to talk to the donor first and make sure. Like
Yeah.
I always like, hey, who's the donor? What's their number? And so I call the aunt, I call the grandma. I'm like, hey, you're good for this, right? Like, because the easiest way to do gift funds is for them to send it directly to title, not necessarily to transfer it to the person's bank statement. Because if they transfer it to the bank, it creates a lot more work for us than if they would just send it to the title company.
In that
So
case, don't you have to get a bunch of bank statements and whatnot for gift funds?
you used to. They've actually passed some new rules where, like FHA, you do not have to source the donor's bank statements anymore. We just have to verify that it came from an institution. Um,
Gotcha.
so just a check from the institution to the title, that's enough now. It's so much better. It's the way it's been with conventional too.
Nice. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of tricks. There's a lot of other tricks when it comes to gift funds too that it can come in really handy. So
So, Ryan, to wrap up here, how can people get a hold of you?
Uh, check me out on the socials. I should be on all the socials. You know, I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. Planet Cheapskate is what they can look up. So planet like planet Earth, and then cheapskate like someone who's frugal. Um, Ryan Lee on Facebook. I think it's Planet Cheapskate Ryan Lee Mortgage Broker on Google. But yeah, Google is really good. You can read my reviews. It'll take you to my website. It'll put my phone on there. You can give me a call. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, cool. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, Larry. Appreciate it. And we're gonna have to do some chicken sandwiches soon.
That works. I had a whole list of places I still need to go, and I've kind of been slacking over the past week because it life has just got in the way, and I haven't necessarily made it to very many places the past week. So I after this holiday, the 4th of July, I'll get back out there and we'll get some more going.
There you go. That's what we're craving. We want to know more about the
Uh,
chicken.
exactly, exactly. Well, thanks for joining me. I will talk to you later, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry.
Yep, we'll see ya.
See you.